So I came across this video just this morning. It just came up in my YouTube feed. I watched a little bit of it. It's kind of a cringy take. Of course, it's from Hasan. Hasan's a little bit of a leftist cringe lord. At least that's my perspective on it. So I wanted to just talk about it. It's called "Obama is Wrong About Defund the Police," right? And it's basically, you know, we'll get into the video and we'll watch the things on this whole this shebang.
Defund the police is slogan. Just a minute, you're wrong. It's okay. You can throw it over something else. Obama so base. Yeah. No. Black Lives Matter is too exclusive of all non-black people. Sweaty. Why won't you say something reasonable like all lives matter? I mean,
Nobody says that.
Like, if you want to win over people, you want to win over the moderates, like, you have to really stop with these sloganeering like Black Lives Matter. I mean, it's so exclusionary. It's so alarming. It's so agitating. We got to think about the moderates, Sweaty. Sorry. You can't say Black Lives Matter.
See, like, this is the problem. We right off the bat, we already start with like some really ignorant rhetoric, right? So basically, people are like, "Hey, defund the police is like a bad thing." The slogan of defund the police sucks. Okay, defund the police is stupid. The idea of it is dumb. It doesn't really make any sense. Nobody likes it. Yeah, BLM is a different story. Okay, people. Moderates are like, "Oh, BLM isn't inclusive enough." No, they're not saying that. Nobody's saying that. Okay. All right, nobody's saying all lives matter is more inclusionary. Nobody's saying let's call it all lives matter, but they also say that like Black lives aren't being, valued enough, because if they were, that it would be fine. But nobody's saying that. There's no moderate saying that. It's just like he's trying to equate that to defund the police so that he can shame people into believing what he believes. Right? Defund the police is stupid. No, they're not saying that. Defund the police is a dumb idea because you can't just defund the police. It's impractical. Okay. Okay. So what do you want to do? Because this is what the idea is. Like, hey, let's focus less on militarizing our police officers, invest more into like social services, accountability through the usage of police cams, whatever. Makes sense. What are you gonna? But like, it's not that cut and dry. Okay. Like most things, what you usually do from when you're a practical person who lives in the real world is what you do is you increase the funding to police to provide them with the things that are necessary, like the body cams, which would increase accountability, as well as these social services. And then you would start cutting away after that. Demilitarizing the police is fine, but like, what are you going to do? Sell the guns? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So you're not going to get all that money back necessarily right away. Defund the police is just like a waste. Like, who cares? It focuses too much on the police need less money aspect and not enough on the police need reform. Literally call it reform the police. That's all you have to do. Reform the police. It's a very easy slogan to wrap your head around. Hey, we need more money to go into social services, yada, yada, yada. You get my point. That's it. All you have to do. Reform the police. We're good. We did it. That's all we had to do. But of course, if you don't believe in the concept of taking away funds from police officers, then you're a bad person and you're not good enough. Like, that's what we're talking about. You can't equate ALM and BLM to defunding to police versus reforming the police. Just utilize a better slogan. You want something catchy? Reform the police.
Probably say something, I don't know, reasonable, like all lives matter, like all lives do matter.
It's a shame tactic. This is the problem. This is like typical progressive shame tactic. If you don't believe in what I believe in, I'm not going to put any mental energy into convincing you that I'm right. I'm going to shame the hell out of you until you either agree with me, or what's more likely is you double down and you ignore the overall message. This type of rhetoric, this type of shame rhetoric is counterproductive to what's necessary in society. I've had a lot more success having conversations with conservatives and relaying to them that systemic racism works by sitting down and talking to them and like listening to what they say, than just going, "Oh, you don't think systemic racism exists? Well, you're a bad person." And then like constant condescending shame tactic. And this is why like this rhetoric is counterproductive to like what needs to happen in society. Okay, progressives that like woke leftist progressives are already going to jerk off any message that you throw out there. So it doesn't matter, right? Right? Moderates don't, like, we have this idea that like moderates exist to play the line between progressive and conservative. Moderates exist because that's just where they fall, because like they don't put too much emphasis in either thing because they're probably focusing on something else. That's it. Like, it's not like moderates are like, I could see the perspective of both sides, so I'll sit in the middle to say bipartisan. No, they're just like, hey, people on the right are crazy like they are on the left. It's just sitting in the middle. It's not like they're making a conscious decision to validate, hyper conservative arguments that they find bad. They just sit in the middle. And I hate like this new age, like people in the middle are like the grossest of all people type of like subtextual argument. It's just stupid.
Defund the police is not popular. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about.
It's
now,
stupid.
The reason why I'm saying this is because this is not new. Establishment Democrats were also apprehensive and not exactly on board with Black Lives Matter. Ever since MLK's letter from Birmingham jail on the white moderate being a stumbling block against the emancipation of African Americans perfectly described the situation. White moderates have not stopped. Like, they haven't stopped fucking throwing hurdles in front of progress.
See how it's like white moderates? White moderates are the problem. It's not the individual conservatives, like, it's the moderates. And rather than like relaying a message that makes sense to get white moderates on their side, we got to make sure we shame the fuck out of them. Again, all the verbiage is reform the police. All you need to do.
Just keep constantly changing it. They're like, listen.
But God forbid the progressives are wrong in the display of the issues going on, right? Just because we said defund the police because we're angry at police and we have a bias against police because of poor police interactions doesn't mean that that's everything, right? That particular bubble of poor police interactions happens in black communities. There's definitely a level of systemic racism associated with it, but that doesn't exemplify all police officers. And to run around with like ignorant rhetoric like defund the police isn't going to be overall helpful. Reformation of the police makes sense. I guarantee you that there are going to be police departments that need more funding in general. Big police departments, like let's say, I don't know, New York, probably could have like their resources reapplied in a better way. Maybe. I don't even know. Not a police officer. I'm not somebody who deals with the budget. But they're probably not going to budge because they're a big union. Then places in, like, let's say, Alabama, who may need the most police reform, they're not even going to have the money to do shit. So you can't just refund or you can't just reorient resources. Right? You have to deal with it based on what you need to. People need to start focusing on, like, the problem of poor police interactions, lack of police accountability, and lack of alternatives, like lack of alternatives resources like social services, and honestly, lack of opportunity. They need to focus more on getting those done rather than like, I don't know, taking away from something else. If that makes sense, right? Like if I was going to compare this argument to something else, it would be like the communist argument, where like I focus on the issues. We have like drastic poverty in the world, or let's just refine it to the United States. We have incredible poverty. We have a massive amount of wealth hoarding, right? All that. But our biggest issue is like the poverty. So let's put more resources into like creating a ground floor. Now, will that take away from the top? For sure. But I'm more focusing on solving the problem than anything else. But there are other people who seem to be more interested in like shitting on rich people rather than like taking care of poor people. Does that make sense? I'm more interested in helping poor people than like shitting on rich people, but other people are more interested in shitting on rich people than helping poor people. And it's the same thing with like police, like this kind of shit. It's like, oh, defund the police. I'm more interested. Your whole slogan is fuck police, and then let's deal with the rest after. It's not like reform the police. Okay? There you go.
I believe your struggle. I understand where you're coming from, but like this messaging is really bad. Okay, the messaging is really bad, let's say. Why don't you just fucking communicate what it is? Why don't you just communicate what defund the police means? You know what it means. Every single person that fucking constantly cries about defund the police, why don't you just say what it is then?
Most people don't know what defund. This is the problem. It's like he's probably talking about moderates like on YouTube. Like, who cares? We're talking about moderates of the world. And like the actual United States. Most moderates don't like defund the police because they don't understand what it means. It's off-putting instantly. And hot take, most people like police. Like most people are okay with police. They like them. I would say even most black people are okay with police. They have lower favorability when compared to white people, but like they don't hate police officers. They understand it's still a net gain for society, but there are problems. So when you tell a moderate, most people aren't even that like interested in politics. You tell a moderate, hey, defund the police, they go, ew, no. They're not going to critically think about that. No. They're not going to critically think about it at all. So if you said reform the police, they'd be like, oh, I'm interested. What does that mean? But when you say defund the police, the first thing that comes to mind, taking away, no, I'm not for that. Right? Like it's as if like the burden is put all on the moderates for supporting a message that's shit rather than fixing a shit message.
What do you want? Defund the police itself is like literally a right-wing terminology. Like they're using right-wing terminology. If you want to think about the cops as a public service, it's austerity. Like it's advocacy for austerity. Why the fuck can't you get on board with that when it's so easy for you to get on board with that with every other thing? You know, you're totally on board with defunding our public education system, crippling it by shifting away funds over to private schools and charters. Why can't you fucking do that for cops? Neoliberals do not have a problem with austerity. As a matter of fact, they love that shit. But when it comes to the cops, they're like, whoa, 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 the messaging here is not good, sweaty. Okay, the messaging is not good. Why don't you just fucking say...
I mean, just ignore... Most conservatives just like cops. I don't understand.
Fuck the messaging and describe what it means then. Why don't you just describe what the messaging is? You know what it is. Obama says you lose people with snappy slogans like defund the police. And he was on Peter Hamby's show on Snapchat, and he said a bunch of stuff. He's been around. He's been doing his press tour for his fucking 700-page book about how, you know, he is God's gift to mankind. The neoliberal God's gift to mankind. Tory Bush responded, with all due respect, Mr. President, let's talk about losing people. We lost Michael Brown Jr. We lost Breonna Taylor. We're losing our loved ones to police violence. It's not a slogan. It's a mandate for keeping our people alive. Defund the police. If defund comes from shifting resources away from ever-expanding police budgets that get used for weapons back to social safety nets and social workers and limiting the scope of what cops need to do while simultaneously advocating for accountability within policing. If that's the message behind defund the police, then every moment that you spend, if you're aware of that, if you're aware of what defund the police actually means, then every moment that you spend just shitting on the messaging rather than being like, no, defund the police means this actually, is a moment that you're wasting. I said this.
So, like I said before, makes perfect sense. Like, that's not a bad message. Again, why do we need to keep saying defund the police then? If you said, see, the thing is that, like I said before, most people aren't interested in this shit. Most people aren't interested in politics. We get all shouting to the moon. Hasan's a big creator. He still doesn't reach even like 0.1% of the fucking United States population. Okay? It's nice that when people sit on YouTube or Twitch or whatever, Twitter, and they're looking to engage in politics, yeah, they're going to be receptive to the deeper meaning of a message. But the majority of people, right, people I grew up with, right, when I worked a middle-class job for 10 years, they don't care. They hear defund the police and they don't give a shit. They don't care because they're not interested in educating themselves on something. You'd be like, well, why not? Well, because they work a job and they have their own problems. So instead of saying defund the police, will they instantly go, no, don't like it? How about reform the police? It's more comfortable. It makes perfect sense, and it's such a slight thing to give up on. Like, he's arguing like, oh, why don't people contextualize it? Why don't you just change the goddamn verbiage? All you have to do is change the verbiage. People will be instantly more receptive to it. That's the problem. And to be honest with you, let's go in deeper. A lot of the times, and this is like a lot of the things when it comes to BLM, a lot of people have issues with this, is that it's not exactly like the greatest examples of racism when like situations are picked. Like, let's be honest, right? So they brought up Breonna Taylor and Michael Brown. Now, Breonna Taylor in general, massive issue. A lot of my conservative base was very upset with my particular interpretation on this topic. There was honestly this rampant issues of accountability within the police department, not just for the people who executed the search warrant, but also for the hierarchy that just botched the whole thing, right? Where it was like it wasn't even justifiable to even execute that warrant. Like it was so bad, like it was like based on a false pretense, terrible, disgusting. But most people, myself included, I don't see that as like a black issue, right? It's still definitely reform the police, but it's not necessarily like a black issue, right? And a lot of times you rope these around, it's like BLM, but like they're not. I don't see how it's indicative of BLM. Michael Brown, another issue. It's hard to justify like the Michael Brown situation, right? Because based on the DOJ report, he charged a police officer. I mean, like, you know, and he was shot, and it's like we're gonna, you know, the whole hands up, don't shoot narrative was proved false. He wasn't shot in the back. It's an unfortunate reality, but like these are the people that we champion when it comes to like BLM and defund the police, and it's like, you really think that that's a palatable message for anybody when it's like, yeah, this guy's charged a police officer and he was shot. We need to defund the police. Does that make any sense to any of you guys? Right now, I'll sit here and what is your point? You should probably listen if you want to hear the point. Like, we could sit here and we could have a whole conversation about, and I do this often when I talk about Michael Brown and how this actually is an issue and is very indicative of systemic racism, but we don't often go into it. We don't actually get into the issue. And the issue is that DOJ report did find Michael Brown to be at fault. But then when you really look into it, it also exemplifies systemic racism in the sense that those police officers were found, based on the DOJ report, to be violating, like, I think the First, Fourth, and 14th Amendment rights of like black citizens in the area. And we focus so much on like these shallow aspects, like, oh, Michael Brown, but we don't focus on the systemic racism aspect. And like I said before, we're talking about the palatability of messages to the most of Americans who are not that interested in politics because they work jobs and they have other interests and they have other things going on in their life. And when your shallow framing is anti-police, which is exactly what this is, defund the police, shallow framing, it's instantly off-putting and it's not a message that people can get around, okay? It's not easy to convince a bus driver who just worked sitting down with terrible back pain, 40 hours a week, 40 plus hours a week, that defund the police actually is much deeper than that, right? You guys have to go with more palatable messages. This is like the real world. This is the real world. Like, you need to express yourselves to other people in the right way.
This before with the original riots that were overtaken.
Black SpongeBob, my man. I don't know if you're not listening or anything, but like, I just don't know how. I don't think that my message could be any more receptive to somebody like yourself. Okay.
Taking the streets. It's like this happened with Black Lives Matter as well. When Black Lives Matter first came out, Obama himself, and also even another civil justice superhero like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, all literally said like Colin Kaepernick is a petulant child or selfish or whatever. That's because liberals hate rocking the boat. And unfortunately...
Well, okay, so then that's like another thing. It's like, like as if there's nothing to criticize with Colin Kaepernick, right? Like, listen, I'm totally fine with Colin Kaepernick kneeling. He should be able to use his platform to do whatever he wants. In fact, I believe in the message he's trying to spread. But again, palatability of a message. You act like Barack Obama is like actively like, I don't really find this message palatable. It's as if Barack Obama couldn't have gotten personally annoyed by Colin Kaepernick, right? Like an entitled white guy that grew up with like an entitled black guy that grew up in like a pretty comfortable area, right? Where like he didn't really experience like these issues of systemic racism, kneeling on the field. Like, I can understand why people are like, ew, gross. I don't want to hear it from this guy. He's not somebody who really demonstrates the message very well. I get it. I disagree, but again, we're talking about the palatability of messages, and it's not like Barack Obama sitting there considering the palatability of messages when it's simply he probably just didn't like the message and found it annoying and then decided to expand on that. Like, Hasan has the idea that Barack Obama must have understood the message but decided that it wasn't palatable rather than him not liking the message and then explaining why. Does that make sense? The action versus the intent.
Progressive activism is about rocking the boat. It's about literally fucking pushing back against the status quo. Conservative activism, largely...
People are... Colin Kaepernick lost his job. Maybe. I don't know. I heard he kind of sucked. But you get my point.
AstroTurf is about maintaining the status quo. When did RBG say Kaepernick was a child? No, she said he was stupid. It was stupid of him to kneel for the national anthem. That's what she said. She didn't say he was a child. It was worse. Obama said Ferguson protesters were thugs. It's worse. Like,
I mean, the Ferguson riots were intense. Like... there was rioting. Once the cop got off because he was justified in his actions, there were like there were riots. People that destroying property and rioting, that's not a good thing. You could sit here and be like, oh, I think that people should be able to, I understand their whatever. Fine, you can understand whatever you want. That's fine, but that doesn't mean that it's right.
Like, you're like, there's no shot Obama said that. Okay. Obama stands by the term thugs. President Obama doesn't regret using the term thug in describing the violent rioters in Baltimore this week. Wow. Whether it's arson...
That literally says violent. If you're a violent rioter, you're probably... Oh, I'm sorry, you're not a thug? Like, what? Like, come on. Honestly. What?
Or, the looting of a liquor store, those were thuggish acts, Ernest says.
Yeah, how does burning down and looting a liquor store help the problems in the community? Can we ask that? Like, I've said this before. Listen, I would never advocate for this, but like, if all these people were going to police stations and burning down police stations, it's not a good thing, but it's the direction of the anger makes sense to me, right? But when you go to a liquor store and you're burning down private small businesses, your message isn't very well received. Right? Oh, let me take this flat screen TV. Oh, they're just protesting. No, there's a lot of people just taking advantage of like a terrible thing that happened. I would never say this, but go burn down a police station. Okay? That makes more sense if that's where your anger is directed towards. Don't do that. I would never advocate for that. You know, I think that the bigger issue is that, like, we need to get people to give a shit about systemic racism, even when it's not in the frame of the public eye. Like, we need to get away from people to get wrapped around the idea of actually solving the issue more than the existence of the issue. But you understand what I'm saying?
Obama's spokesman. In discussing the riots Tuesday, Obama assailed the criminals and thugs who tore up the place and described them as a distraction from the real issues of police brutality. Obama asks...
That's exactly what it is. The fucking dogs are barking again. That's exactly what it is. When you have people burning, looting, and rioting and pushing their anger in ignorant ways, not even a lot of it's anger. Some of it's just like, hey, let's jump on it and destroy things. Then it takes away from the message. Does that not make sense? We don't think that makes sense at all? Distraction from real police issues of brutality. That's not a centrist idea. That's a practical idea. It's not people. You're not going to get people to care about, first of all, reforming the police when all they see are people attacking, doing the wrong thing. Like, your issues with the police. Why are you burning down a liquor store?
Were thuggish acts, Ernest says, Obama's spokesman. In discussing the riots Tuesday, Obama assailed the criminals and thugs who tore up the place and described them as a distraction from the real issues of police brutality. Obama asks Kaepernick to think about the pain he's causing military families.
I just don't, like, as if those aren't, like, that's a terrible message. Like, yeah, I get it. Again, I think that we need to have, like, my interpretation on this. Like, again, like, I don't come from the perspective that Obama is, like, actively trying to be a centrist. Rather, he's just like, hey, my first thought is like, oh, this can be very upsetting to military families who their loved ones put their lives on the line and maybe even died. I understand it. I still agree with what Kaepernick did, and I would defend it, and I do every time it's brought up. Excuse me. But, like, for the first reaction to be like, it makes me uncomfortable. I'm an American, because Barack Obama, I imagine, is American first and black second. Right? This is what everybody should be. American first, identity second. Right? So it's like, uncomfortable for military families.
President Barack Obama wants Colin Kaepernick to think about the pain he's causing military families the next time he takes a knee during the national anthem. You know, I'm going to leave this over here for a second. I want you guys to really just, I want you to really sit in this for a second and think twice before coming at me. These idiotic counters like, Obama never said that. By the way, asshole, as soon as you fucking jump to Obama never said that, you're basically admitting, you know, that was a shit take by Obama, right? Because you have the benefit of hindsight, right? So now you can't go back on that. Now you have already admitted that Obama did say something fucking stupid. The president defending Kaepernick and others who have joined him in such acts which many Americans consider offensive, saying, but Obama said, people on both sides of the issue should keep open ears.
Yeah, so it sounds like, okay, that sounds fine to me. Hey, this is offensive to military families, but everybody needs to keep this in mind. Again, when it's easy. See, the problem is it's so easy to look back now and go, this is how we should have reacted. What is this? How many years later is this? 4 years at least? Like, this video is a week old. This is from like 20. I think this article is from 2016 or something. It's easy to be like, we should have defended Colin Kaepernick in war. But it's like, we're in 2020. Like, it's totally different. It's a different time.
These controversies, we start getting into a conversation. And I want everybody to listen to each other. So I want Mr. Kaepernick and others who are on a knee, I want them to listen to the pain that may cause somebody who, for example, had a spouse or a child who was killed in combat, and why it hurts them to see somebody not standing. Republicans say homosexuality is a sin. Democrats say, well, you can have a civil partnership. Come on.
What the hell are you talking about? Where do we get to homosexuality?
But, like, gay marriage itself is, of course, too far from our understanding of traditional values in America.
Oh, okay. So I guess we completely pivoted from the actual topic to just shaming Obama for not being. This is what I'm talking about. It's like, that's not even an accurate comparison to things. Like, this is like, I don't understand. And not for nothing, again, hot take, we've been moving socially very quickly in the past 10 to 15 years. Like, the idea back then for gay marriage was, hey, if you separate church and state, and I'm going to get into this now since he decided to bring it up for whatever reason, right? The perspective was, from the governmental perspective, is like, hey, listen, if you have a union with somebody, which is a marriage for a man and a woman, you get financial benefits. We should extend those financial benefits to gay people, but since marriage itself is a derivative of religion, we should maintain that only for people who are a man and a woman. right? That's the message. It's literally the exact same thing. You get the same benefits, but it's like separate but equal. Now, I disagree with that. The second that we decided to call it marriage and give tax benefits, governmental tax benefits from it, everybody should have gotten it. But like, it's as if like it's such a horrible thing, like for them to be like, yeah, I believe they should get the exact same things as straight people do, just not call it marriage, because again, marriage is a derivative of religion. You understand? But like, we don't want to think about that because it's not woke enough. Because like, oh, God forbid we take a stance that might be disparaging to any other identity group. God forbid we take that stance, we're a bad person. That's the perspective. And then gay marriage was passed, and Obama was like, okay. Like, it's not like Obama rioted, he was like, okay, I praise the decision. That's it.
Obama is right. You and everyone else on the left is wrong. People are dumbasses, and they take what you say at face value. So when they hear defund the police, they are dumb enough to believe that that's exactly what you're going to do. Stupid fucking messaging. Again, if you find defund the police to be stupid fucking messaging, then all you need to do with the endless amount of cash and media influence you have is to say defund the police is activist backed. It's grassroots. All you need to do is either A, adopt it and describe precisely what defund the police means, just like you could have done with Black Lives Matter or with Colin Kaepernick, what he was doing and what he was trying to do, or what Black Lives Matter as a movement was trying to do. And it took like 4 fucking years to get there so that so many people could finally come to terms with what that means. Or you could come up with another message. You could say, instead of defund the police, you could say refund social work or something like that.
Or reform the police. But I don't understand why this perspective here is you have progressives that came up with a really shitty tag, which I've already explained why it's dumb. And like, they don't want to move off that message. Like, they don't want to be like, why don't you come up with it? You come up with something more palatable. Reform the police. Oh, we did it. Now let's push that. So instead of like coming up with a decent message that like is easily consumed and understand and will actually get people to be open about it, we have to force the shitty one because it's the moderates' fault. That's the whole thing. Like, there's no accountability for like the activist group themselves. Reframe the message so it's more palatable. Like, I don't understand. Why is everything on everybody else's shoulders to do for you? You're the activist. You do the right thing. I don't understand. And it goes into like such a deeper thing too, because like what do you want to happen, right? So that you want like politicians to become activists? Like, I don't understand, right? So let's say you have like a moderate, like progressive, somebody who's like, you know, left leaning, and they are in a community of other moderate progressives, probably maybe even more people right leaning. They need to do what their people want them to do, right? Were elected to deal with the issues of their community. So you want them to be activists and like try to completely recontextualize a message that their people and probably them themselves don't even give a shit about because it's not a palatable message. Like, come on, like, I don't understand. Like, this is literally something that we could easily solve by just changing from defund to reform. You spend so much time trying to explain the nuances of defund the police that it distracts from the real message, and yet you still double down on it and you blame everybody else for a shit message.
I don't fucking know, whatever you want to do in your neoliberal focus test groups. And then literally describe exactly what defund the police means while also talking about demilitarizing the police, which is, for example, a more effective slogan.
So then go with that one. People would be like, oh, that makes sense. It would be much more palatable to say demilitarize the police. But again, reform is just much more comprehensive.
The police. If demilitarize the police is more effective and test better, or refund seems to test better, then do that. But also communicate what defund the police means, and also agitate along those same boundaries.
So why? So I don't understand. So we need a focus group. So in order to change the worthless message, we have to have an official focus group to see if it's bad. Why go through the barrier? Change the message yourself.
If you are just fucking criticizing the protesters, all you're doing is basically saying, fuck the fucking activists, which...
Dude, Black SpongeBob, my man. First of all, very cool name. Second of all, you're not listening to what I'm saying. I know that you and other people, I'm assuming you're a Hasan fan. That's great, man. There's nothing negative about that. That's totally fine. I'm assuming that you are very interested in politics, just like most other people sitting here listening to a fat 30-year-old talk about politics. Most people aren't those people. Do you understand? You need a palatable message to get around people's heads. They don't care. Somebody working 40, 50, 60 hours a week doesn't come home from working a job that they aren't loving, because that's what most work is. Work is you have to work to get money. They come home from their job. They don't care about the nuances of defund the police. They just don't care. Okay? They want to give them an instant palatable message. The only thing that you need to do is change a word from defund to reform. And you're so hell-bent on promoting a shitty message that's not something that everybody will absorb, that you need to shame other people into doing your job for you. There you go. And now you're just hyper defending your ignorant message. It's not my responsibility, which, by the way, I already do talk about reforming the police, but it's not my responsibility to advocate for you. Why don't you come up with a better message that's more easily spread? We've been wasting years on a bullshit message that people aren't going to absorb. And like, you just feel the need to you just want to be right. And when you're wrong, it's about shaming other people. And that's what Hasan's message is here. It's like, yeah, well, if you don't like defund the police, you do it. Well, why the fuck do I care? You have a shitty message. It took me to actually having to like invest my time and energy into educating myself about defund the police in order to understand what the true message was, which is why I'm like, hey, let's talk about reforming the police. But like, when I was working a 40-hour-a-week job, like, I wasn't the first thing on my mind. You understand what I'm saying? People have other things going on in their lives. Okay, your issues aren't everybody's problems. You need to understand that. You might think that's upsetting. It comes from a point of privilege, but that's like the reality of life. So you can live in the fantasy world and get nothing done, or you can live in the reality of the world and get more done.
We have no control over anyway. Fuck the people on the streets that have legitimate grievances. We are progressive, but also that's hurting our causes. So instead, we're just going to give more money to the police. We're going to train the police more, and we're going to keep doing exactly what we've done since the fucking 60s.
What's wrong with giving more money to the police? Give more money to the police. Put them body cameras, more accountability. I don't understand. Like the demilitarizing is like the last issue. It doesn't even fucking matter. Who cares? Like, honestly, the militarization of the police, it's a problem. But you know what else? Bigger problems are police interactions, lack of accountability for police, lack of alternatives like social workers to be able to deal with issues that they're more capable of dealing with. Let's focus on implementing those than defunding police. Do you understand what I'm saying? It makes more sense to focus on the real problems rather than the ones that make you feel upset. Since priorities moving forward, yeah, give police officers more funding to get these things done, and we can worry about demilitarizing them after.
Invention of
and yeah, unions, especially strong ones, aren't going to care.
Community policing, liberals and Republicans. Liberals.
Yes, that's exactly right there. Some pork chop. So defund the police is actually a shit title for a good message. Yes, 100%. But again, even his framing of the message is garbage. Because he's like, we have to, it's like, this is the problem. He's talking about how the framing is bad, but then he's focusing on the defunding aspect first, rather than the proper usage of the funding. Or rather, like, he just said, like, he just basically said, what he actually just said is it would be a bad thing to increase police funding. Right? Who cares if it's an increase or a decrease, as long as it gets the job done? Like, why not scale up and then scale down after things become less necessary? That's usually what you do to play it safe. But do you understand that?
Conservatives, Republicans, Democrats have successfully always advocated to increase and inflate police budgets, promising that, it's going to go back to retraining. It's going to go back to community policing. It's going to go back to body cameras. None of it has worked.
So then, like, make sure it does those things. Like, that's a failure of particular politicians. It's not the money's fault. It's where the money's going's fault. Like, if your argument is like, hey, listen, we've increased the funding, but it didn't go to where it needed to go. Okay, that's something nice to talk about. Let's get it to where it needs to go. But like, you still need to put money into these different things. That's just an issue with the way that they executed the funding increases.
And to all the people who are saying, like, I want to literally eliminate all the police, I want to abolish it, it doesn't matter. Your opinions are marginal. Even the activists that are fucking, even anarchist activists themselves, who ultimately have the goal of police abolition, still believe that there needs to be some form of policing, even if you don't fucking call it policing. And beyond that, know that they're not.
And now what blows my mind is Hasan is now justifying like the hyperbolic left-wing rhetoric of getting rid of police officers by framing them as more like, oh, well, they believe that police need to go away, but they know that they need something like police. They'll call it something different. He's more interested in positively framing like hyperbolic leftist rhetoric than moderate rhetoric. Do you understand? Like, to him, it's more palatable to say abolish the police, because, they're still going to want some form of police, but it's totally not okay to talk about increases to police. Yeah, that sounds a little biased. Or maybe it's a little based.
I'm going to get that right now, so it doesn't fucking matter. You can say it all you want, but it's a marginal take, and it's a marginal take, and you're not going to be able to make it mainstream right now. You're not going to be able to make it mainstream tomorrow. I don't give a fuck. See how I dealt with that? I hear you. I see you. It's not going to happen currently, so let's work on what we can do.
Well, it's dumb anyway.
Obama's saying this, Logan.
It's a dumb idea to abolish police, just so you guys know. Like, if you have that take, I love you if you're listening. You're my fan. But that's a dumb take. You're being dumb.
It's like defund the police are harmful. Pulling stunts like this is just peak sociopathy.
That I see you and I hear you. Can I get some water? I want a glass of water.
That's Flint, by the way.
Thank you. I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
What? He wet his lips. He did not drink it. He didn't sip it. He wet his lips. There was an
What? Wait, well, we're gonna overanalyze whether he needed the water or not. I don't understand.
audible gasp in the audience. People were just like absolutely dejected. Why would you do that?
Backstage.
Who cares? This video's a week old. Like, not even a week old. Literally, now we're giving Obama shit for taking a sip of water, just so you guys know.
The president, sitting at the table with the criminal governor, decided to perform his stunt all over again.
You know, generally I have not been doing stunts here, but, you know.
that's
And now he's making a joke because people were giving him too much shit for sipping the water instead of gulping it down. I don't know, maybe he didn't want to drink it all and burp? Who cares?
not what I expected. That's what Snyder did.
I don't know who the fuck this guy is.
The problem with what H-Bizzle is saying is that Dems are saying, please don't use this messaging, it hurts the cause, when in reality, they're not going to try to forward the cause. Exactly. That is the heart of my problem. Use this messaging and hurts
I
the
just
cause.
feel like that's like an overgeneralization. Like, the reality is like it just hurts the cause because people aren't gonna like absorb the idea of
Cause, when in reality, they're not going to try to forward the cause. Exactly.
it's just all
That is
shaming
the
tactic.
heart
Everything's a shame tactic.
of my problem, ladies and gentlemen. The problem isn't saying defund the police or saying abolish the police or whatever the fuck you want to say. What do I always tell you? If you believe a cause is just, you don't
Can't
fight for it
believe.
because it is the most appealing or the most palatable. You fight for it because you think it's right. And when
Right, but see, this is the part that ignores it. It's like people don't think that it's right because it sounds very wrong. It's like we don't think about that. This assumes that every moderate thinks that defund the police is a good message when most think it's a bad message because it doesn't make sense. No one's receptive to it because it's stupid. You hear defund the police, a normal person that doesn't have a traumatic brain injury goes, that means take away funding from the police, rather than reforming the police, where a normal person would go, okay, what does that mean? I'm interested. It leaves it a little looser, open for people to drink it. You understand? That's why palatability is like necessary. Getting people to get onto your message is necessary.
you're doing that, you can, I guess, water down the slogan. But what you must do
It doesn't water it down.
is not fall for the
No, defunding isn't what reforming is, Black SpongeBob.
right-wing framing. What you must do is continue
Black SpongeBob.
describing exactly what it is that people want.
Yes, reformation. That's exactly what people want.
Liberals don't want to say, we want to, people on the ground want to demilitarize the police. Liberals don't want to say that because that is
Reform the
conflicting
police.
with what they advocate for. What they advocate for is progress. They want to reform the police, right? They say,
Oh, there it is! You just fucking said it. They want to advocate for progress by reforming. So wouldn't the term reforming the police make the most sense for people to say?
they want to reform the police. They claim that they are on the side of justice. They claim that they're on the side of marginalized communities. So they claim that they want to do something about the police, but in reality, they don't. And that's precisely why they get caught up with right-wing reactionary framing on issues that they're supposed to be advocating for, and only fucking
Do you think that reformation of the police is a right-wing framing of an issue? Why did you put reform in quote? Apparently you did. I wasn't paying attention. Why is that right-wing? Right-wingers don't want to touch the police. It's not about framing it for right-wingers. It's about getting people on your side. Like, I just kind of feel like Hasan just doesn't really know how the real world works. It seems to be pretty normal of a lot of YouTubers on this platform, political YouTubers, where they like never actually like, I guess, worked a real job or interacted with people that didn't believe what they believed. Like I was forced to work with people that I never would have interacted with. That's like the great thing about a job, especially when you work with different people. I was forced to, it's hard to interact with people I never would have interacted with. Different cultural backgrounds, different things that we advocate for. We just have different beliefs overall. And you know how different it is to interact with somebody? Honestly, from like anybody, a white and a Hispanic guy interacting, a white and a black guy, very different cultures overall, very different upbringings. You need to learn to navigate talking to different people, and then you get into different political perspectives. I've grown up with people who are very progressive, very conservative. It's not about it's about like learning to interact with different people, understanding their perspectives, and not shaming them instantly. And it's like it improves social skills. Like it's as if like it's a bad thing that my life experience caused me to be really uncomfortable and not sit with people that already agree with me. That's what it's about. And that's why I spend a lot of my time talking to conservatives and getting them to wrap their minds around more progressive ideas.
Criticize the left. Fuck the left. The left is politically insignificant. Shut the fuck up. We are politically insignificant. There's like 11 fucking people in American politics that could be designated as leftists. Stop fucking trying to bully 11 fucking people and the activists on the ground who have lost loved ones and focus on doing something.
Isn't that ironic? He's like, don't bully people on the ground who lost loved ones. But he didn't digest the message about people kneeling for the military because people could have lost loved ones and been upset about it. But when it works for him, it's a talking point. You understand what I'm saying?
Anything. And not fucking just like giving more money to the cops. Not just, saying, oh, we're just going to train them this time. If anything you were saying is accurate, we would have seen a surge in African-American turnout during the election when we saw complete opposite. In fact, saw an increase in Trump support that's likely not completely disconnected from defund messaging to the black men in high crime areas being turned off by it. So what you...
Yeah, I think that actually is another factor from what I'm seeing here. Hot take, black people actually do like the police. Yeah, overall favorability from black people is lower than white people. But like, it's not like everybody hates the police. It's like a pretty fringe group that like really hates the police. Talking fast because I have them the speed turned up. It's a half-hour video and I talk a lot. Right? You understand what I'm saying? The fuck was I saying? No. Right, it's not like everybody hates the police. They do want reform. It's not as drastic as you want to make it out to seem.
You're basically stating here does not go against what I am saying. The issue is you're not communicating anything.
That's funny. Someone's like, Hasan, you know that Biden is incredibly popular amongst black people. Bernie struggled with the black voters. Yeah, that's true. I think that's because black people don't like far left-wingers as much as people think. Like, I know that like very progressive people think that they're on like the side of black people by treating black people brownie points, but like most black people are they're just black, they're people and they don't want to be pandered to, they just want to be listened to. And when you push a shit message like defund the police, it doesn't help issues of black people. They're like, hey, listen, we would like to not be the victims of systemic racism, and we want to figure out solid solutions to getting to that point. And then progressives are like, yeah, defund the police. And then people are like, the black people are like, no, that's not really what we want. We just want to, have more accountability. It's like, no, it's like, oh no, black people are like, oh, we want accountability, more body cameras, some kind of implicit bias training, maybe more social workers as an alternative. And then progressives are like, yeah, that's what defund means. And it's like, well, no, it's not with defund. That's not what defunding means. You understand what I'm saying? It's not. Reform means that. So you're toxic to the message of black. You're actually you're hurting black people by saying defund the police.
If all you focus on is just shitting on the fucking left,
redistribute police funding, that's fine. But like, it's so okay. So redistribute police funding is okay, but I would say reform makes the most sense, right? When we look at what we're trying to do here is we're trying to fix the interactions that police officers have with black people, right? Which means a lot more than just the police, honestly. Like, this is a whole conversation about like expanding opportunity. Honestly, me, UBI, prison reform, drug reform, universal healthcare, because like police interactions of police officers with black people is very much something that there's an issue with the way that black people interact with police, but there's also the way that black people interact. Well, there's an issue with the way the police interact with black people, but then there's also the way that poor people interact with police. And since black people are disproportionately poor, they have worse interactions with police officers because it's a police officer to deal with crime, but poverty comes with crime. So we have a whole aspect that we need to focus on, an expanding opportunity to reduce the crime within poor people in general, but also would help black people more. But then when we talk about the police interaction side, where the focus is to deal with, again, more police officer accountability, social services that could be an alternative, potentially. Again, I'm more UBI over social services, but something as simple as maybe a social worker coming out when somebody is having some kind of like a manic episode, right? It's more about dealing with the negatives of the police rather than forcefully talking about the funding. I don't really care about the funding of police officers. I don't really give a shit about how much or little they have per se. I'm more interested in getting the result done first. And so when you talk about the redistribution of particular resources, you're focusing too much on like where the money's coming from. rather than like what solution are we going to solve. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, we need to focus on dealing with the problems. And while the financial aspect of how much money the police make is a problem, what do you think is a bigger problem? The amount of money that the police have, or the poor interactions between black people and police officers? Ask that question. And then you'll probably say, oh, it's the interactions. It's the lack of accountability. These are the things that are a bigger issue. Let's deal with it's the lack of alternatives to other social resources. It's the lack of training that police officers even have when it comes to dealing with people with mental disorders. That's the issue. The money comes second. So defunding or reorienting resources is not what you're trying to like flagship, okay? It's just reform the police. It's simple, it's easy, it's non-divisive, it opens people up to actually care about the message, and it's why the message is horribly received right now, because people are focusing too much on defund.
Which is politically irrelevant, instead of fighting back against the reactionary framing, then you're going to fucking lose to Donald Trump of all people. Jesus Christ. It's not like the Democrats ran on defund the fucking police, brother. There's like 5 people that won that are now saying defund the police. What are you, are you telling me the National Democratic Party was running on defund the police? Is that what happened? Oh man, it was just too unfeasible. That's why for some weird reason, all of the moderates, they lost. You are giving too much credit to Americans Who Understand Policy. No, I am not. That's why I always say 84% of cops in 2016 said they were going to vote for Donald Trump. Reframe the conversation around that if you want. If you want to draw up partisan fucking lines, draw it on that.
Why is it like, okay, I'm not a big Trump fan, but like police officers gravitated towards Trump because Trump wasn't demonizing them. That's it. This isn't like a race issue. It's just that like police officers, this is a hot take, guys. Police officers are people, right? And when you demonize a group of people for something that they are not necessarily in the wrong for, they're going to be upset about it, right? Like, let's be honest here. Like, black people get a lot of shit for being poor and violent due to systemic racism. And then police officers get a lot of shit for being racist due to racist cops. And yeah, a poor system, a poorly designed system. But it's not like all these individual cops are bad. I hate to be like, it's not all cops. Because like it leads very quickly to a dismissal of like the problems, which is when we need reform of the police. But like there is an argument to be made there where it's not like all the cops are bad people, but like the system itself needs to be changed. Body cameras, great thing. You understand what I'm saying? Cops are people
just
too.
do anything but what you are doing so far. We basically have a group of steroided, hopped up fucking psychopathic Republicans that are completely unaccountable and are allowed to do whatever the fuck they want in regards to harassing individuals, to away from black communities and black people, funding fucking a bunch of dudes that don't even live in that community, and funding those fucking suburbs so that they can have better schooling, so that those white suburbs can have better schooling, so those white suburbs have better access to opportunities, so that they can take additional funds and get more guns for themselves. This is a predominantly Republican group of people with zero accountability from the law that are hopped up on fucking steroids, that have all the guns on the fucking planet, no legal system to reprimand them, and we just keep giving them more money and acting like this is something that is foundationally important.
So like I was saying, like this is kind of an unintelligible point. Because he doesn't explain what the hell he's talking about. Right? He's like, basically, hey, white people, they take money from black people to buy guns and cops. That's pretty much what he was saying. What I believe he's trying to say is what happens, and this is just if I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. We have an issue, and this was something that was very much a problem in the Michael Brown situation when the DOJ did the report. You have police officers over-ticketing black communities. Right, you have police officers over-ticketing black communities, which takes money away from them, and then it funds the police. Right, that was one of the problems. That is like actually a problem within the within these like some of these police versus black people interactions or police versus black community interactions. Is where like you have impoverished black areas that are like they have a lot more crime in them, and then police make it worse by over-ticketing them, which reduces their ability, their economic opportunity, and their ability to like actually make better of themselves. And you take that money and you put them into the police department, and then you hire police officers that don't live in those communities. So when they get paid, their tax money isn't going to that community; it's going to another community in like a similar area. It's a big issue. This is something people don't actually think about. Is like, for instance, I live in New York. I live in Long Island. There's a lot of people on Long Island that go and they work in the city, in like the harsher areas of the city. And then they take that paycheck and they pay taxes back on Long Island in nicer, better areas, right? And one of the reasons for that is because you don't have people doing good or who have decent jobs living in like a ghetto, right? That's like a big issue. And that's a conversation that like we need to be having. And this was Hasan's chance to talk about it, but it just doesn't seem, either he doesn't quite understand that truly, or he doesn't understand how to deliver that message to people, or he just doesn't care truly about education of people when it comes to these like real issues. I don't really know what it is. I don't know what, I just don't understand. What is it? What's the focus here? You know?
Actors framing not actually working and bringing about the transformative change in law enforcement. The message is not working. You need to be more clear. You can't
Let's see. The message is not working. You need to be more clear. Yeah, that's fair.
fucking deal with activists this way. You can't. Like,
What
are you doing? Like, you work for the DNC. You should know this by now. You can't deal with grassroots mobilization. Republicans don't even have grassroots. Half of their shit is astroturf. Either you set up your fucking counter astroturf strategies and
let's just be clear. This Hasan is specifically upset because he doesn't want to change the word from defund to reform. Like, that's this whole video. It's a half an hour video about how we need to keep this word here because for some reason, like, that's what it's about. Like, the activism right now is about the word rather than the actual message. Just want you to understand that Hasan's more interested in the words being the way that they are instead of like the message actually getting across. That's what we're having a half an hour conversation about.
Seem like that's what the fucking people on the ground want, or shut the fuck up and say, hey, we hear you, we see you, this is what we're gonna go with. Abolishment of police departments is not happening. Defund the police is not about abolishing it anyway. There will always be a need for some form of policing. You don't have to call them fucking police. You don't have to call them anything, really.
Why? Like, and then again, it's like, why do we not? Like, who cares what they're called? Like, again, this is bordering on like very heavy progressive rhetoric. It's like, oh, that doesn't need to be like basically saying like we can completely remove police and then reinstitute some other form of police, and we'll call them huggers, people who like to hug people. Like what? Like what? Like it's this new aged entitled idea of, instead of fixing a broken system, of throwing it in the garbage and making a new one. It's a problem that we have, like, from big to small, from like just throw out the police and get a new police system to, oh, my screen on my iPhone broke, let me get a new one. Like, it's silly.
But there's always going to be a need
over
for
a
law and
word
order in any fucking societal
a
form,
word.
any sort of social formation. There's always going to be a court system, no matter what. And
it comes with this idea. It's always theory. It's always these theories of like, my system its grass is greener on the other side mentality. It's like, well, my system is perfect. No, it's not ever going to be perfect. The police system is decent. It's just not perfect. Let's get closer to perfect rather than throwing it out for the system you think is going to work when you don't actually understand the complexities of life. You don't even understand that different people have different mentalities. How the fuck do you think that your idea of a brand new police system called, like, I don't know, the Care Bears is going to work? You understand my point?
there always has to be a group of people that enforce that court system and the rules and their laws. People who say, no, there isn't, are fucking 14-year-old delusional anarchitty babies who they themselves have not fucking read enough anarchist theory to comprehend that even in their fucking mythological utopian worldview, there would still be some organization.
Like what? Like you're jerking off like theorists. Like theory is bullshit. Like it comes down to this is basically what Hasan's saying. Well, you never read the theory, so you wouldn't understand it. You know how fucking insane that is, right? Like you talk to communists, right? And like you'll talk to somebody who's really wrapped up in communist theory, and you'll bring up like basic points like, hey, listen, if we turn to communism, capitalism will destroy it. Hey, listen, how do you get people in a communist system to go towards particular jobs, right? Because that's something that capitalism has taken care of. How do you potentially value people who contribute more to society at a greater level? Simple questions that, like, instead of answering those questions, people said, well, you got to read the theory. No, I don't. If you read 3 books of theory and you can't answer simple questions to me, then you're a fucking idiot.
Okay? You can't throw a tickle party to ensure that people don't fuck one another over. Shut the fuck up. You don't have to call them cops. But even if you are democratically voting on every single hierarchical structure, every single law is democratically voted on in a direct democracy, let's say, someone still needs to fucking enforce it. That is actually a way better fucking framing from Noah. Noah is correct. This is a fear that I have expressed before. Defunding of police under current neoliberal order would just lead to the accelerated privatization of just another public service rather than actually doing something to help. It's a grassroots slogan, so I get that get it though. I do think it misses the mark. It doesn't miss the mark. It's just that you don't want to fucking describe what the
Bro, that was like a great example. He's like, hey, I'm afraid of blah blah blah. Bro, Hasan just needs to be the word. He just needs to be right. Like, God forbid, like, you educate yourself on fucking anything else.
mark is, if you believe in progress, and if you are a leftist, you have to recognize
Yeah, he did the meme. Yeah, you're right, Boss Chung.
that we don't have the think tank. We don't have the fucking focus testing. What we have are actual people that have legitimate fucking grievances. So what can you do? You can stand in front of the tide and say, no, 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 it's not time for that right now. No, no, no. What you're saying right now is actually hurting our cause. Or you can say, listen, I understand what you're trying to say. And while I personally think that maybe it's not the best messaging for all these fucking moderates, I'm going to do my best to describe to them exactly what it is that you
Or check us out. We could change the slogan and then work from there because it'll be easier to wrap that around people's minds. Because, like, again, this has this idea that everybody understands that defund the police doesn't mean defund the police. Even though people seem to be saying, yeah, let's defund. Like, Hasan is like, defunding the police doesn't mean defunding the police. What it actually means, Hasan is jerking off the idea of taking away funds from police and that we cannot give them more funding because it never works. So, yes, to Hasan, defunding the police is about defunding the police. 100%. And then redirecting those resources. But reformation makes more sense. We're jerking off this it's just so stupid.
are saying. Because we all
oh my
ultimately
God.
have this
Over a word. This is what kids do. Like, they just need to be right. Just who fucking cares? Reform the police works better.
same fucking goals. When Donald Trump brings about a law and order message as a dog whistle for black people not wanting law and order because they don't want cops or whatever the fuck he's trying to say, that's psychotic.
I feel like it's probably more like a dog whistle, right? For hey, people are looting and rioting, and that's bad for the community. Like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like, is everything that Trump sucks, but does everything that he says have to be a dog whistle?
Of course, black people also want law and order. But
Make police poggers. Yes, that's the new one. Let's keep working on that. Let's get it a little tighter, but it's going to be like, make the police poggers.
problem is, in underfunded communities, the presence of police creates lawlessness and
Pog
disorder.
police.
Everybody wants law and order,
Yes.
unless you're a psychotic racist who literally thinks
Yeah,
black
yeah,
people
yeah.
just want chaos and disorder and lawlessness. Of course,
I like the weaponization of black issues here.
they
It's
want
for the
law and order,
poggers.
motherfucker. The whole point of defund the police is law and order. Bringing about accountability for the police force is law and order. Stop falling for the reactionary framing. So here's what I had to say. Here was the meme, rather. Okay.
Wait. So wait, Hasan just said that law and order is about reforming the police, blah 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 blah. So what? I don't know. Apparently, what Hasan is saying is, if that's the real message behind law and order, then why don't you spend your time recontextualizing that message instead of trying to change its framework, Hasan? Oh wow! Look, isn't that not the same fucking thing you're criticizing everybody for? Like, oh, law and order, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's all about titles.
After I saw Obama say, like, oh, this is a terrible message, this is a terrible message, this is a terrible message, I said, in order to win neoliberals, you have to use their language. Try saying, instead of saying defund the police, try saying, we need to eliminate redundancies in the police force and better distribute newly freed capital in the growth sectors like social work. You know, growth.
Or reform the police, Hasan. You said it. You literally said it before. Now what you're doing, because like you've already countered your own message when you said reform the police, because you're an idiot. But like, instead of just saying like reform the police, you're trying to overcomplicate the title so that you can make this argument that it's not that, like, oh, people aren't going to be able to remember that slogan. Like, I don't understand. Like, you're just doing everything you can to diminish the perspective instead of actually be like a logically thinking person.
Growth sectors that truly undermine the presence of crime and fight back against it. It's clear that increasing investments in police has
Well, I have them splitting back on 50% increase.
diminishing returns. And neolibs were like, fucking, yeah, that's actually a lot better of a message. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, why don't they use that? First of all, are you fucking dumb? How do you not recognize your own biases here? This
I'm
message
sorry, what was the message? Pooping my pants?
against it. It's clear growth sectors like social work, you know, growth sectors that truly undermine the presence of crime and fight back against it. It's clear that increasing investments in police has diminishing returns. And the presence of crime and fight back against it. It's clear that increasing investments in police has diminishing returns. And neolibs were like, fucking, yeah, that's actually a lot better of a message. Like,
What? I just don't like this. This word means this slogan means reform the police.
what the fuck? Yeah, why don't they use that? First of all, are you fucking dumb? How do you not recognize your own biases here? This messaging is not appealing to anyone outside of the actual bicoastal elite, like fucking DC wonks and shit, that spend all their time like reading Vox.com articles and thinking that they're.
I don't understand. So to him, this message isn't palatable enough. It's not, because it's too long. Could mean reform. But like, defunding the police is palatable. Okay, I just don't understand. Like, how does Hasan make points? He just says, oh my God, this is like cognitive dissonance, like 101. I don't understand. I really don't get it. I think that people like Hasan because he is animated. He's handsome and animated. And people are like, oh, Hasan, you're saying something with a voice that I like, so I'm going to agree with what you're saying.
They're brilliant. The reason why
I don't understand. Like, this is ridiculous.
This is ironic because so many lefties like quote tweeted me and were like, Hasan is so fucking dumb. He doesn't realize that this is actually a good take. One, yeah, it's a good take because that's what fucking defund the police is.
No, it's not. they're gonna bark again when I bang the thing. Reform the police. Oh my
And
god.
also, you're literally failing to recognize exactly what I'm trying to say, which is, hey,
we need to reduce the redundancies of my video and his.
if you know what this is, then fucking describe it to people. Meet them with their with the way that they understand it.
Yeah, we get it.
And fucking describe it to
Activism
them.
is on the. I don't know. Is everyone else? Like we're gonna keep going through the same thing. He's gonna say something dumb. I'm gonna say most people don't even want to absorb defund the police because it's stupid. Most moderates don't even like it. It's not like we have a whole bunch of people going, it's not very palatable, so let's not talk about it. Most people are just like, this is a gross message. I'm not even gonna bother looking into it because it's dumb.
Okay, just do that. That's one. Because it's demonstrably successful, considering the fact that you literally just fucking said, "Whoa, this is good." That's one. And two, this is only successful in a very narrow framework. This kind of messaging.
Again, if you're a young activist today and you believe really passionately in a slogan like defund the police, what is your advice to that activist, also knowing that a lot of politicians won't go near that phrase?
It's interesting. We take for granted, if you want people to buy your sneakers, that you're going to market it to your audience. If a musician drops a record, there's going to try to reach certain audience.
Yo, people are so crazy, dude. Like, how is this an argument? Like, the abolition of slavery wasn't fucking popular, okay? Especially for the slavers. There's no way to, like, market something.
Yeah, but okay, listen, I want to tell you something. When you say let's abolish slavery, what you're saying is, hey guys, we need to abolish slavery. It's a pretty direct message. It's not even about marketing it. It's about being direct with like your actual message. So when you say abolish slavery, you mean abolish slavery, right? So when you say defund the police, what you really seem to mean is defunding the police. You see how like people would reject the notion of that, right? It just seems like the first thing you're interested in is actually defunding the police rather than actually doing the right thing.
That is ultimately going to rock the boat and destroy previous hierarchies, okay? Why
Like everything is a government conspiracy to Hasan, apparently. Like, God forbid your messages suck.
is it that we're making it seem like it's a burgle? The entire point of corporate branding is to present an idea that is unattainable
Yeah, and then he even says reform the police multiple times. So you're
in the real world, okay? That's not a real thing. That's why, like, woke bae as a marketing term is a fake person. That's not a real person. Not a single person on this planet is, like, truly fucking woke. Everyone has privileged blind spots. Everyone's complex individuals. They
You talking about yourself there, buddy?
have unique opinions, and they can be fucking bigoted from time to time, right? Like, you can't corporatize a human being or existence, just like you can't fucking commoditize a goddamn social movement, okay? You can't do that. You
And also, yeah, slavery isn't as bad as police officers, too. So something else to be contextually right.
can't just be like, oh, well, you know, if we were to turn it into just do it, then you're effectively rendering that movement useless anyway.
Bro, you quoted reform the police, and like you know that was I feel like he made the video and he said that and he was like, oop, that's a good point. Let me just ignore it. You're ignoring yourself.
This is part of the reason why, like, when Walmart, for example, says, like, oh, Black Lives Matter and throws up the fucking black fist, while across the nation, they're, like, funding the shit out of police unions, then it's idiotic. Then it's nothing. It's just like this. It's Black Lives Matter. Like, everyone can fucking say it.
Okay, so now we're talking about the hypocrisy of Walmart. See, that's the thing, and it's so crazy. Do you understand what he just said? Okay, so he said that Walmart is a problem because they say Black Lives Matter, and they also give money to police. And I want to explain. First of all, obviously corporations are very performative, so who really gives a shit? But like supporting Black Lives Matter doesn't need to mean not supporting the police. But Hasan has made the distinction. He has made it. He has taken a stance with what he just said that if you want to support Black Lives Matter, you need to not support the police. And that's where we come from when it comes to the issues with this type of fucking activism. That's the problem. And Hasan doesn't see it, right? He doesn't see that. He doesn't realize the thing that he just said was fucking stupid. You can support Black Lives. First of all, Black Lives Matter is a good slogan, right? Okay? Now, if you were somebody who didn't like it because you feel like it's exclusionary of other people that aren't black, that's fine. If you want to push your version of All Lives Matter, that means everybody should be included. Because All Lives Matter can only mean, if you've done correctly, all lives matter, so we need to treat black people the same. Okay, so Black Lives Matter makes sense because you can easily, you know how you could fix, you know, like when people are like, I don't like Black Lives Matter because to me, it seems like they're saying Black Lives Matter more. And all you need to say is like, no, Black Lives Matter also, right? It's easy to explain that message. It's pretty clear, concise, quick. It gets you thinking. It's not super divisive. And people who take it the wrong way, it's easy to explain to them the correct thing. When you push BLM, you just say, hey, Black Lives Matter as well. Black people, victims of systemic racism. There's issues when it comes to police interactions with black people. Totally get it. Easy message. It's fairly palatable. It's something it's hard to maybe convince people, but it's a solid message I'll wrap myself around. Totally on board with BLM. But defund the police isn't something you can easily contextualize by adding a single word to the end of it, right? Black Lives Matter also, right? Reform the police. But you can't say, there's no one word you can do to like save that quote. Okay? And then again, he's saying you can't support the police and Black Lives Matter. Yes, you can. You totally can. You can support the police. You want to know how you can support police and Black Lives Matter? You support the police and Black Lives Matter by saying police officers who do the right thing are getting shit for the wrong thing being done by bad police officers. So to remove that, we need to add accountability and training to make sure that our police officers are operating to the standard that they should be operating at. You can totally be for police and BLM at the same time. Totally. I don't even know what you're saying, Goat. I appreciate you coming and stopping by from Hasan's
You
stream,
believe,
though.
as I do, that we should be able to...
And you can reform a broken system. We already talked about how the new age idea of throwing away something rather than fixing it. What you're saying, I generally think is rather ignorant. Because like, yes, you can reform broken systems. Like that's how the world works. Like you absolutely can. Throwing away an entire system. And like what's funny is you said you can't reform a system that's broken, and then you said we need to rework the system, which is literally saying reform. Rework and reform are the exact same fucking words. They're literally synonyms. So you just said you can't reform a system, therefore we need to reform the system. You understand what you said?
Reform the criminal justice system so that it's not biased and treats everybody fairly. I guess you can use a snappy slogan like defund the police, but you know you've lost a big audience the minute you say it, which makes it a lot less likely that you're actually going to get the changes you want done.
Yeah, there you go. Hey guys, we need to make sure we say the right thing to get things done. Woo! That's a hot take. Not really.
Yeah, dude, because something as...
What we should do instead of saying something like reform the police, we should make sure we spend like a couple of years trying to get somebody to actually think about what it means. Because it's like, it wouldn't be easier to just change.
Radical as changing a historic trend.
Goat. We just want you to know, our slogan here is reform the police. We got to reform the police.
That capital owners have fucking taken advantage of in the way that they have like built out these police departments as a defense line for the interests of capital is going to be undermined quickly by, saying you're just finding the right slogan.
Yeah, we need to make police poggers. Yeah, pog police. That's what the new slogan is.
Baby-like. The point I'm trying to make is like, this is baby-like, okay? It's magical thinking to assume that if you want to arrive at the best possible slogan, that people are all of a sudden going to change their minds and be like, wow.
Look at this.
Wow.
Look at how dumb this is.
I never thought this way before. Like,
you see how like the diminishing Hasan is? Like, do you see that? You see that? Like, he thinks like it's everything to diminish, right? He's saying that like just because like, hey, if we changed defund to reform, it doesn't mean people are instantly going to grab it. No, that's why you do activism, but it's a better base and it's easier to push the message. Like, it's so black and white when it works for Hasan to diminish somebody's perspective, but it's a hyper fucking nuance when it supports his argument. I don't understand. Like, I just don't get it.
No, just like with Black Lives Matter, people didn't hear Black Lives Matter and go, wow, that makes a lot of sense, holy fuck.
No, they didn't, but it's easier to wrap people around BLM than it is for people to wrap people around defund the police.
Okay, they didn't think like, oh, well, I came to terms with black liberation because I heard Black Lives Matter. Like, no, that's not how this fucking works. It's because people literally fucking constantly made the arguments over and over again against the
with a good framework. BLM is a good framework.
sea of misinformation, against the sea of reactionary framing that desperately tried to make BLM into a terrorist group that wanted to fucking kill cops.
Sure, there are people who are always going to contest BLM and defund the police. Well, reform the police, but more people are going to absorb the message if it's a good slogan, right? That's why. Why even have a slogan if you're not trying to market your idea? A slogan is literally it's marketing your idea. It's a catchphrase. BLM is a fucking catchphrase. Okay? It's the same thing as like ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Do you understand? It's all catchphrases. We live in that world. We're just trying to get things off. Catchphrase, slogan, right? I just don't get it. It's like, I don't get it.
I'd say, let's reform the police department so that...
Whoa! Look at that take. Let's what? What should we do? What should we do, Barack Obama?
I'd say, let's reform the police department.
Boom, let's reform the police department. But there you go, guys. Reform the police. I'm all for it, Barack Obama. Thank you. Easy. It's one word.
So that everybody's being treated fairly.
What is the take here? Like, this whole
What's the take here, Hasan? Was that too hard for you?
Obama unironically think that, like, I don't know, black protesters all around the country had never even thought about this. Like, oh, let's reform the police so that people are being treated fairly. Like, is that truly the take here? Activists on the...
Yes. Okay, so here's the take. I'll explain it to Hasan because apparently he doesn't understand oppression, right? So let me do this take for you because Hasan doesn't actually seem to know what a black person is. I'm going to explain to you why black people went with defund the police. Black people are the victims of systemic oppression. So their first reaction is to be negative towards a system they feel and has actually hurt them for a long period of time. So they're going to say something like defund the police. Basically, in other words, hurt the police. Justifiably, it's a bad message because it comes from anger, justifiable anger, right? But that doesn't make it instantly positive framework. So now we're trying to reorient it away from hurt the police, which is what defunding would do, to reform the police. That's the take. It's like I'm sorry that's going to sound, oh, it's going to sound so racist, Papa. You think black people are stupid? No, like they're fucking people and they're angry, justifiably so. But that doesn't mean that their message is going to get done what they want to get done. That's the reality, okay? And then when you have a bunch of progressive like leftists sitting here shouting into the wind, pretending like everything that's like ever happens is always positive, like you're really just tokenizing black people when you think that like black people can do no wrong. Like God forbid the slogan is just not going to work positively, and then it has to turn into like, oh, what do you hate black people? Well, I don't know, Hasan. Like, why are black people not people to you? I don't fucking understand. I just don't get it.
People are being treated fairly. Like, is that truly the take here? Activists on the fucking ground were like, oh, fuck, why didn't we think about that, dude? What the fuck?
Probably because you got dickheads like you justifying their shitty message.
Dude, God, they're all like, oh, no, dude, fuck. We totally dropped the ball, brother. If only we had waited for Obama to fucking chime in while he's selling his book.
The key is deciding, do you want to actually get something
Now Obama's message sucks because he's capitalism, right? You see the message there?
done, or do you want to feel good among the people you already agree with? And if you want to get
That's, oh, I love this take.
key is deciding, do you want to actually get something done, or do you want to feel good among the people you already agree with? And if you want to get something done in a democracy, in a country as big and diverse as ours, then you've got to be able to meet people where they are.
The only person I'll ever start a revolution for is Barack Obama. That is exactly what he's saying is, hey, do you want to be a performative activist or do you want to get shit done? How is that not like a palatable message? How is that not a good message? Hey, do you want black people to have rights or no? That's your question, Hasan. Let's see how Hasan rationalizes not really caring about black people because he has an ego problem.
And
yeah, you know, like halfway to Jim Crow. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
come on, separate but equal. One side is saying separate but equal. The other side is saying no, fuck that. Well, that sounds kind of bad.
That's not all what's happening. You're not complaining about conservatives. See, what you're doing is you're shitting on progressives. Obama's specifically saying progressives. Like, hey, most people would galvanize around reform the police. And so his question was like, do you want to be somebody that actually gets stuff done, or do you want to be a fucking moron? And clearly, Hasan has decided which one he wants.
The good messaging is separate but equal, isn't it? What? It seems like these reactionaries have...
Well, no, he's still President Obama, just like it's going to be President Trump after Trump is out of office. So it's President Clinton, President Bush, President everybody. Once you're not president, you're still get the title of president.
Have a good argument, separate but equal. I mean, it's equal after all. It's just...
Like now all of a sudden, like Obama was advocating for segregation. Like Hasan is so woke that he's calling out a black racist to Barack Obama. Whoa.
Separate. Why can't we do better messaging? Like, it's just, wow. Come on, dude. Just compromise. You know, one side wants all the slaves to be counted. The other side wants none of the slaves to be counted. Let's arrive at a compromise.
Yeah, you see, this is pathetic. Is it actually?
Thank you so much, guys, to all my Patreons, and a special shout out to my Papa XL Patreons. Without all you guys, I would just be some fat dude screaming into a microphone. So thank you so much, guys. Mwah, I love you all.
I want Papa Gut to pee on my face, but just as a friend. There's nothing weird about that. I want him to pee on my face.